Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fourth Startup Global webinar of 2023, Ready, Set, Go Global, Assessing Export Readiness. My name is Nadia. I'm the Program Manager of the Startup Global program here at Startup Canada. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which I am on today is located on the unceded territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Indigenous peoples. I encourage each of you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory that you are residing on today. Now, today's session is being recorded, and the recording will be shared afterwards on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. So if you want to go back and take a look at anything, rewrite any notes, it will be available for you afterwards as well. We invite each of our attendees to introduce themselves and connect with each other in the chat. Feel free to share your name, your organization, and where you're calling in from today. Make sure that you're sending the message to everyone in the room. I think Zoom defaults to message only the hosts and the panelists, so make sure that you're sending it to everyone so that we can all connect with each other. Now, a bit about Startup Canada. Startup Canada is a national nonprofit that is the gateway to Canada's entrepreneurial ecosystem. We're here to connect entrepreneurs with the support, community, and tools that they need to build a successful business here in Canada. Since launching in 2012, we've grown to support more than 130,000 entrepreneurs annually, and our ever-growing grassroots community network from coast to coast to coast. Startup Global specifically is one of our flagship programs, and we connect a pan-Canadian cohort of entrepreneurs wanting to build global businesses with a network of partners dedicated to their success. This free program recognizes the importance of exporting to the Canadian economy, celebrates those making waves in the global marketplace, and empowers early-stage founders to take their ventures to the international stage. I'd like to take a moment to thank our co-presenting partners of this program, Export Development Canada, the Trade Commissioner Service, UPS, and Desjardins, as well as our entire ecosystem support partner community as well, Scotiabank, eBay, Google, North Forge, Trade Facilitation Office of Canada, GS1 Canada, the Intellectual Property Institute of Canada, Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters, and Canadian Aboriginal Minority and Supplier Council. We're so lucky to have all these incredible partners on board. Now, today's conversation is focused on assessing your export readiness. Throughout this webinar, you'll be introduced to some of the tools and surveys that you can use to start to begin and understand your export readiness. We've prepared questions for our panelists, but of course, we want this to be as beneficial for you as possible. So if you have any questions at all throughout the entire program, please drop them into the chat or the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to answer them live for you as much as we can. Now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speakers for today. The moderator of this discussion will be Paul Gaspar, the Director of Small Business at UPS Canada. He'll be joined by Guerra, founder and CEO of Everly, JP Lambert, Manager of International Services at Desjardins, and Leah Sanford, President of Kelford Inc. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Nadia, and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. What we believe is going to be another great panel discussion from our panelists. So to jump right into it, as Nadia indicated, we got a lot of questions that we want to hopefully get to, and hopefully some of yours as well. So I'm going to ask our panelists if we can maybe just start with some intros, maybe share a little bit of what you do, what your role is, and how you play within your organization. So I want to start with our entrepreneurs. So Alejandra, can I turn over to you to maybe do your introductions first?
Of course. Very nice to meet everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Alejandra. I'm the founder and CEO of Everly. My mom is my co-founder. We're a very small team. We have about 3 people on our team. So you can expect me to do a little bit of everything from operations to marketing to basically everything. Our company is in the US and in Canada. So we have, a pretty decent footprint for being such a small team. So I'm excited to add to this conversation.
Perfect. Leah, maybe we can come over to you next.
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. Delighted to be here. My name is Leah. I am the principal and co-founder and co-owner of Kelford Inc. We are a mental models-based marketing firm out of Nova Scotia. What we do and what I do in the run of a day in this role is kind of split between 2 things, but at the heart of it, it's helping entrepreneurs define, deliver, and really demonstrate their value at various distances to their ideal customers. And kind of on that geographically from an export perspective, that distance can be global. as an entrepreneur, just like LA, I wear a lot of hats, as a lot of you do as well. So everything from finance to running our export and product development and service development and HR and all the things that come with that. But today I'm also here representing the Forum for International Trade Training, who has granted me my certification in international trade as a practitioner. And really, I'm just excited to get into the magical world of export with you all and help illuminate some of those first steps for you. So thanks so much. Looking forward to this.
Excellent. And last but definitely not least, JP.
Thank you, Paul. I am JP Lambert. I'm an international service manager here in Ontario, assisting all of Ontario's banking account managers and our business members at Desjardins. I say members because just want to clarify, this is how we call most of our clients here, since we are a credit union and as a cooperative, our model is a democratic model and our clients have equal voting power. Just wanted to clarify because I might refer to bank or credit union, but yeah, Desjardins is definitely a credit union. So we offer the same products in a bank, but we contribute to the financial development of the communities and our members. I'm new to this department, but worked for the company for over 18 years. So what we do at International Services is supporting businesses with anything related to their import-export needs. So foreign exchange, legal, payment, and guidance services. I'm glad to be here today. Thank you for the invitation and congratulations to all of the startups here today. I admire your courage and the courage to launch your own business. Thank you.
Perfect. Excellent. So for our opening question, I want to go back to the entire panel, and maybe we'll go in reverse order this time. So I'll come to you, to JP, first for this, but want to know what everyone's thoughts are as far as what are the benefits and maybe even some disadvantages of exporting and expanding to new markets. What are your thoughts, JP?
My thoughts, if I can summarize them on this one, is that some products and services have a better fit in markets outside of Canada. With technology improvements, our planet got a lot smaller over the last years, or let's say decade or two, meaning that it's a lot easier now than before to conduct a business abroad. One of the main advantages I see to exporting is that you develop your business from here with whatever advantage here means to you, but developing it in another country where the fit you identified as best, without having to move there or and all the logistics around it. A disadvantage, or better said, a threat for your business is that there's a potential disconnect with your market reality in real time in that country where you're exporting. However, you know, if you do your KYC, know your customer activities, sorry, your KYC activities might be different than if you lived closer. In my opinion, that threat can be turned into opportunities if you manage to be connected with that foreign market that you're exporting to. So it's really a matter of perspective at that point, but I see a lot more advantages than disadvantages per se.
Great. Leah, what's your thoughts on this topic?
I will show my bias. I'm an enthusiast for export. But the kind of the pro and the con for me are the same thing, and it's money. When you export, there is a real opportunity to expand your revenue lines, to expand profit margins, to build those connections and relationships in your brand on such a bigger scale, and able to really connect with folks in meaningful ways where you can deliver really important value that your product or service does. On the flip side, when it comes to challenges around export in the kind of context of global markets changing as rapidly as they are right now, it's also expensive. If you have to redesign packaging, if you need to hire more people, if you're looking to outsource certain components of your export, whether that's product or service based, if you need shipping partners to move your things, those things can come with costs as well. So there's a real opportunity there for it, but you have to plan accordingly for it and kind of turn, as JP was saying, turning those challenges into opportunities if you plan appropriately.
Great. So, Ali, I'm just curious, an entrepreneur that has gone global, what's your thoughts? What are the benefits you've seen within your business, or maybe some disadvantages you've come across along?
Yeah, so I don't feel like I've come to any disadvantages so far, but I'm speaking primarily from the point of view of a D2C business that has my 3PL in Toronto. And I have a great relationship with my 3PL. They're able to find me the best rates, including UPS and other carriers. And they ship to the US and they get me really good rates. So I feel like I've been very, very lucky in that sense. I think when it comes to thinking about getting retail distribution now in the US, it would be a very different conversation. And Everly's looking into that right now. Like we just launched in the detox market in the US and in Canada, which is exciting. But we have our community built in Toronto, right? We're running ads and everything online, but really our community, really, I would say 90% of our customers are here in Toronto. So the big challenge is going to come to be how can we support those retailers in Los Angeles, in New York City, when our bulk of our community is here. So to Leah's point, to elaborate on that, I agree. It's a lot of investment, right? You need to make sure that you're ready with the marketing budget to be able to support that expansion. I think there's a lot of benefits. Like out of the gate, we wanted to be in the US and Canada. And it was easy for us to do it because of the relationship that we had with the 3PL. I think that once we have enough volume, it will make sense to have a 3PL in the US. But for now, that doesn't make sense. And I think to Leah's point, if those things aren't perfectly calculated, you could get into a situation that can be really risky financially. So really making sure that you're growing in a sustainable way so that you're not surprised with like extra fees. What other thing? Really? I would say that's it. Like I would say my word of advice is grow slowly.
And that's great because a lot of what I've heard from the three of you is really being prepared, right? A lot of research, a lot of work up front. But even if there are disadvantages, you can turn those around and make them an advantage. I know that I constantly reference a study done by EDC, and you touched on a lot of the reasons as to why they highlight going global is important, right? Exporters make more money, they grow faster, they tend to be more productive and competitive because they've got access to these other markets. They weather economic ups and downs because you're diversifying, you're going to other markets, and the list goes on and on. So glad to hear that we're all sort of saying the same things, and a lot of that is from an entrepreneur that's done it or those that are supporting it. So that's great to hear and a good start. Leah, let's go to you for the next one. How can founders know when to begin exporting? Like, are there tools that they can use? Like, how would they actually identify, yeah, you know what, this is the right time for my business?
Yeah, right out the gate, there's a wonderful quiz you can do, thanks to the Canadian Trade Commission service, and we'll make sure the link to that gets put in the chat for everyone. It is a nice little kind of friendly way to dip your toe in and see if now is the time. When it comes to wanting to learn more structurally, foundationally, and kind of principles and best practices, a great place to dip in to see if this is something that you really want to commit to is also looking at the Forum for International Trade Training. They have a series of courses. Some are paid for, some are available for free, and resources to help you get a sense of your bearings and start to put together a bit of a framework in terms of what an export plan would actually look like. And if that is something that you're kind of ready to take on, because in my experience, if you aren't able to handle the planning of export, you're not ready to handle the complexity and logistics of exporting as well. So that plan really is a good foundational piece. If you're like, ooh, feel I can handle that plan, I always recommend starting with your own motivations and having a good long kind of sit and think and talk to folks on your team. If you have investors, if you have a board, if you have trusted advisors, if you have banking partners, these are folks to start talking to. Your accountant is a great one to chat with as well, and really kind of sort out for yourself, what is your motivation for doing this? Why is this an add-on you want to bring? Because it's kind of expanding out to a new market. 2 markets does not equal just double the work. Somehow it's triple the work. And it's one of those things that you need to be ready for and able to kind of respond to in an agile sense. So if you think you're ready for this, if you're feeling excited and you want to kind of start to branch out and go forward, I do the quiz. I would sit down and actually write out what my motivations for this are, what risk tolerance I'm willing to take, how much time I am willing to commit to experience and experiment with this whole thing and start to look at, where would you like to go? It's a little bit of travel planning kind of excitement of this, of what market and why do you think this is the right place? And once you have those kind of initial pieces laid out, you're in a much better place to, in an organized kind of logical fashion, start to build up the resources, start to do some of the research and figure out if this is a path that's really right for you at this time without overcommitting too early on.
That's great, Leah. And if I can add actually something to what you said, as far as, knowing what markets you might actually want to go into. And sometimes businesses struggle with that. I mean, Canadian businesses, a lot of them think US right away, but then where do I go from there? And one of the things that with technology and businesses having websites now, there are tools similar to SimilarWeb. And the thing with tools like that is you can actually, as a business owner, see where you're getting traffic to your website. So I've actually worked with a lot of businesses just by looking at similar tools like that, because some of them actually are very surprised. They're saying, oh, for sure, my products could be, very big in this market or in that market. But then they recognize they're getting a lot of traffic from markets they wouldn't even considered, which doesn't mean that's the right one for them, but it's definitely one they should research and look into as well. So I'm glad to hear or see that you've touched on that as well. So that's good to know. JP, is there anything you want to add on this topic as well, or?
Sure. Initially I was thinking that I might not have all the expertise Leah has, for an example, but, in my opinion, as to say when to begin exporting can lead to different answers, right? So I'll address also one tool that we offer at Desjardins that I'm sure exists elsewhere as well. But first, my opinion is very simple on this. Just like you would do, just like a founder would act here in Canada, I think that once you got the idea, the gut feeling, I'd like to underline the gut feeling, and all the feasibility research done, move forward. I'm not saying invest all of your eggs in that same basket, but when I say move forward is take steps. As far as research goes, I would recommend to reach out to your financial institution, specialized organizations, and EDC. There's a lot of reading to do. There are certificates and classes on this broad topic in many universities. Perhaps a great idea to get a certification or surround yourself with an expert in that field. And now quickly, what we offer at Desjardins that I referred to earlier and that I'm sure exists elsewhere is a tool called International Gateway. So quickly, the idea is that it's a team that provides you with guidance services in over 50 countries in the world. In our case, in other cases, could be more, could be less, I don't know. But what they do is market analysis, provide with partners and clients networks that they have developed, and much more. So when to start, I think after after you analyzed the market you will be exporting to and found clients that will guarantee that the payment will be made, it's a good start. It is one thing to find a client, another one to agree to ship and pay, and but what guarantees do you have to absolutely get paid? This is a start point, and once these tools are in place to help you and really make sure you're not at risk, then you're good to go.
That's great. Very good. Okay, so we've provided some suggestions, even some tools as to how a business can go about seeing if they're ready to begin exporting. But how about we now actually ask an entrepreneur? So, Ali, how did you know it was right time for you, right time for Everly to actually start going global? And in addition to that, what did you do ahead of time to ensure that you were actually ready for it?
That's a great question. I think, as a super new business, sometimes you need to listen to your gut and your heart a little bit. I know that this is, contrary to the other thing that I'm going to say, which is Google Analytics is going to be your best friend. To your point, Paul, we saw a lot of, traffic coming from different places that we weren't expecting. So for some context, we launched the business out of Canada. We immediately opened up our fulfillment into the US because we saw that we were just having organic traffic to our site from the US. And as I mentioned earlier, that wasn't something that was difficult to do because we fulfill everything from Canada. That's a decision that we made right now because we don't think we have enough volume to expand into a 3PL in the US because, once, people here, maybe some already have this experience, some don't, but basically you need to have like these minimums of volume for these 3PLs to make sense. So we're in a very lucky situation where we were able to expand to the US with our warehouse here. We have a problem of orders maybe taking a little bit too long to get to our US customers. So we are considering someday having our 3PL in the States, but that's going to come with volume. So basically, to answer the question, how did I know? I'm originally from California, so I had a community there. And I think organically, when I started building the brand, I'm very forward facing with my face for the brand. And I think I built the community basically in Toronto and in California. So there was interest in both markets. And then the traffic on the site. And one new market that we're considering entering is Mexico, because my background is from Mexico. I have a big community there as well. We're seeing a lot of traffic to the site. And one way that we're thinking of doing it without risking too much is just opening up Amazon Global. We sell Everly not only on our website, but on Amazon. That is a super low risk way to see if your brand is going to sell well anywhere. Well, not anywhere internationally, but at least in my context, Canada, US, we're already in those markets. And then Amazon is launching something. I know there's a people on the chat that also have their product on Amazon. So maybe they could let me know what this is called specifically, but basically once you're in the US market, Amazon's going to open up and make it really easy for you to ship to Mexico as well. So we're going to test that and see how our sales progress from Mexico. And based on that, then I'll determine if it makes sense to maybe open up a small 3PL to fulfill some orders directly in Mexico. So that's the way that we're doing it at Everly. But there's so many ways to go about this. And I think we need to combine that data, but also, that strong gut feeling sometimes.
Great insights. Thank you. Okay, let's get into some more meatier things. I'm going to go back to you, JP, and then Leah. What are the key elements of a strong export strategy? And maybe you might want to add in there strategies for risk management, for example. But again, key elements that you think really drive a strong export strategy. JP?
How many hours do we have?
We got another 40 minutes. Less.
I'll be quick. I'm just kidding. The reason I'm asking is it's such a broad topic, and it could be easy to get into details. And yes, the devil's in the details. But for me, everything that applies for a non-exporting company also apply for an exporting company, with a few more things to consider. I say few sarcastically. So yes, here or abroad, know your customer, be close to your partners, choose the right ones. I know it sounds very easy, but it's key to choose the right partners, who you want to sit at that table. Involve your banking account manager. Yes, I sound like I'm preaching to the choir, but you want to involve your banking account manager as soon as possible in your process. It happened, unfortunately, I don't want to sound negative, but it happened too many times that we would be involved a little too late in the process. And then, oops, we discover this and that from our banking account manager. So we realize that now there's extra delays that we did not calculate. So to have these partners, including your banking account manager, early in your processes is a key element to me. You don't want your project to go on the back burner or go south because of a simple topic that was not covered on the banking side. Where your financial institution will help you have a strong export strategy is helping you with that risk management component. So there's a few banking products that are key to help you mitigate different risks. I'll be quick. Like I said, I'll try to be quick. One of them is your foreign exchange risk. So just to be clear, I've worked at Desjardins for 17 years and I never heard of this. So it's possible you never did. Anyway, I'm just sharing that I didn't know it existed. But did you know, for example, that there's a currency exchange rate and a cut the institutions are charging? That cut or charge is it's something that can be locked in time. So again, I'm trying not to get too granular, but there are ways. One of them is called a forward contract that allow you to forecast and budget in time. by blocking your currency exchange rate. So let's say today it's 137 USD to CAD. Well, you could lock it in for 12, 18, 6, 24 months with your bank. Yes, there's a contract that comes with it. Yes, there are little fees, but what it does to you is it helps you mitigate that risk, because maybe your profit margin could be eaten up if the rate is fluctuating so much in your disadvantage in time. So you're this way you can forecast that. Remember this, not to manage your FX or foreign exchange risk is also taking a risk. Secondly, payment. So I alluded to this one earlier when I mentioned guaranteed payments. Well, there are legal tools that exist to help you secure your international payments and transactions. What if you ship to a new clients across the globe? How do you make sure you will get paid? And when, how, and based on what exactly? Nothing to be scared of. There are tools for it. So what if your client is asking for a guarantee? How do you reassure a client on your product reliability or just the company name, right? So you may have the nicest website, best reviews, super active social media platforms. This won't guarantee your business is solid or that your product is reliable to your new clients. Maybe it will, but for some, they may want to see those guarantees. There are tools for that. There's also another tool that exists to help you mitigate your risk as well as your client's perceived risk to help you grow your business. That's what I'm trying to say here. So I will mention just a couple. One of them is a letter of guarantee. Another one's called a documentary letter of credit. So one is it says in the title, it's a guarantee. The other one's a method of payment. And then it works in between you and your clients and your bank and your client's bank. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what that is as far as payment goes. Thirdly, there are important partners you may want to have, like EDC, who will also bring their expertise and in risk management. They have their own set of service offering, and I highly recommend you speak with them. In summary, surround yourself with people you trust, partners and experts in that field. I would put expert in bold. That will help you, that will help lift you up and support you with specialized services you may not even know that exists. So, and it will allow you to focus on what you are good at. Yeah.
Oh, great. All very important. So much so that I noticed, Al, that you put in the chat that dealing with currency exchanges is a real problem in this economy. So I wasn't going to come to you with this question, but I'm going to turn over to Leah in a second. I'd love to hear from you afterwards if there's anything that you might have focused on as a key element, or even something to minimize risk that maybe JP or Leah doesn't bring up. So if there is afterwards, by all means, I'd love to give you an opportunity to add to that. But let's hear from Leah first.
Sure thing. When I'm working on export plans, there's a couple key things that I want to make sure I have included in anything we do for Kelford, anything we do with our clients, just to help there be one centralized place where knowledge can live so that the team can all come together and be moving to the same plan. That's kind of the heart of all of this, of why we want to write this down and make it into a plan to begin with. And it starts with a market assessment, and that's going to help you understand and uncover not just a feeling of wanting to go to this market and feeling like it's a good place to go. And I am all here for the feelings and the gut pulls of this feels right, but you need to have evidence as well. Practical, logical, definable evidence that there is a market where your ideal customer is going to be here. They exist here. That there is evidence that you can get your wares, whether that's a service delivered online, in person, or a physical product that needs to move, that it logistically can get there and be received by the person trying to buy from you. It's one thing to export, it's a whole other world to import as well. And sometimes that gets forgotten. So as part of that market assessment, you want to make sure you understand what are the jurisdictions of law that are happening in here? What are the languages, cultural norms, customs, holidays that you might not be prepared for? How does the community actually shop, buy, consume, and value? Important stuff to understand. And then you want to turn that magnifying glass internal as well, and really look at your organization and say, what is the internal assessment? Do we have capacity to take this on? Do we have the capabilities already? Does anyone need to be shuffled? Any portfolios or responsibilities expanded upon? Do we have the linguistic skills to support customer service, implementation, setup, guarantees, repairs, or replacements? Do we have enough bodies, enough capacity, enough enthusiasm to both manage everything we have domestically going on and expand? Because there's going to be inevitable hiccups that come along the way. And then there also should really be a section in here, whether it's a product or a service, where you're doing a review of what it is you're trying to sell to this new market and what needs to change about it. You might need to relabel something. You might need to change the design of packaging. If it's a food product, it might have an entire different set of legal requirements in the new place you're going that changes from what you were doing domestically. You might just want to give it a new name. Just change the name of the product. It sells in a different market because of a cultural context, or there might be a competitor with something too similar to you already. But it's really important to do that product review, because I've seen time and time again, negative surprises cropping up when we weren't really prepared and we went, oh, I didn't know that had to happen. And when that happens, when a surprise comes up and it's not a good one for you, that extends our timeline. And that's where the risk of costing you more money comes in, because it might mean there's a delay in getting a new certification or a certificate or a checkbox on an export form. It might mean that duty is being levied upon a customer you have in another country that you weren't expecting, and now they're mad and writing a bad review about you. And those things start to happen. Everything JP said about finances, giant financial section. To ensure that you've got capacity and runway. Exporting is a long game. These are rarely moments where you're like, ooh, it's a blip. I feel like popping into a new country and selling here. This is something that's going to take your energy and your enthusiasm. It's going to take your money too. And so you want to make sure that you can sustain this, that you can profit from this, and that this will be rewarding to you. So taking the time to talk to your banker, talk to your accountant, talk to your bookkeeper, talk to your mom, talk to whoever you need to talk to, but make sure you're actually thinking these things out and documenting them, so that when one element changes in the context, we can see the through thread of that through the plan, and you can make the adjustments as you go. They're very much living documents when you build something for export. And it sounds like this is so much. It could be 2 pages, it could be 200 pages, depending on your organization, your time scale, and your export dreams. But the important part is to actually build the plan so that you're guided by confident, evidence-based information. So when things change, when you get stressed, when it's 2 a.m. and something has come up, you're able to respond in your best way possible as the best entrepreneur that you are. And so that's some of the things that I would look at when you're building out that plan.
So I think JP said it correctly at the very beginning. How much time do we have, right? Because we can go on and on and on just on this one topic. And there are a lot of good tools out there, and there's a lot of places we can turn to. Al, I was just wondering, was there anything else that you wanted to add? Anything that, I know that we covered a lot here, but is there anything that you thought, hey, this is one that really comes top of mind for me?
Honestly, like I don't know who said it about having just great relationships with all of your people that work with you, your vendors and your bank specifically. So one challenge that so I'm legally American, I live in Canada. We raised a small family and friends round, and it was in USD. Having launched the business in Canada, that was tricky because I had to play a lot of things in Canadian dollars, but we had all our cash in USD. So this concept of exchanging money has been an ongoing topic for us. And like, what should we do? Should we hold our USD or exchange it now because we need Canadian dollars, the USD is stronger? Like, that's always been a little bit of a mystery, and it's been tough to navigate. So I would say having a good relationship with your financial advisor, your bank, that is extremely important. And yeah, agree with all the stuff that Leah has said as well. You need to have data-backed evidence before making decisions like these.
Yeah. So Leah, I want to come back to everything that you outlined with a follow-up question, if you don't mind. Should a business do parts of what you sort of outlined, and there's a lot of steps there, before they, jump in with both feet, or do you think that they can do parts of it and then, I'll get to the rest of it afterwards, once they get into the market? Any thoughts on that?
I think I would recommend, and I immediately felt like my chest tightening, like, oh no. So I feel this is my reaction to this one of like, no, do this first. If you don't do it to the highest degree of detail, if this is a 3-page, we've got some indications, we want to experiment, then that's a great start. But do not dip your toe in somewhere if you don't know where you're going and what the language is and what the requirements are. And when it comes to regulatory and compliance, it's not something to play around with. You need to know the rules of where you're going because, oh my goodness, the cost that comes with that and the headaches and the heartaches that come with that if you weren't generally aware. Once you get in there, once you start going, once you start selling, once you get that kind of motivation and momentum actually building, that's when absolutely you can get into far more detail if you decide we're going to go and we're going to stay and we want to expand here as well. Then we can get into far bigger levels of risk analysis and options and 3PLs and brokers and shipping and insurances and all those different things absolutely are something you can grow into over time. But please, please, please start with your basics so that you protect the business you've lovingly built already and it can continue to operate here without being taken offline by something that happens in another country.
Perfect. And again, I wasn't sure how you're going to answer. I was hoping that's what you're going to say. Just because being in the logistics space for 30 years, it's the one thing that I see all the time, right? So, businesses, there's different components, but some of them might think of this or think of that and then dive in. When, yes, you're saying they should look at everything, even if it's, an initial look. Because again, a strategy plan, a global strategy plan is not a one and done, right? It is something that keeps evolving and you keep looking at. But looking at everything up front is critical because we've seen way too often where businesses get issues with customs, regulations, just transporting goods, after sales policy. If I got returns, how do I manage? So the list goes on and on, and that's just in a space that I know. So you start diving into these other aspects, not having answers or how you're going to react to all these different components could be a problem, especially when you're now dealing with the fact that you're in another country and trying to operate there as well.
And I will flag there's nuances and differences in what it is you're trying to sell internationally. Mm-hmm. If you're selling a service, in my experience, easier. You don't have to ship anything. So there's a different level of what we need to deal with when it comes to your international and your export plan. If you're selling a small product and it's not food or a natural, like a wood product, that changes in terms of regulation. Then if you're selling, like, I'm going to ship plants, that's its own whole kettle of fish that you need to deal with and how that's going to move along. So a lot of this is kind of also like asterisks, depending on what it is that you're selling is going to affect the complexity. But starting in a place like with a Shopify site on Etsy or in Amazon stores can often, for a lot of folks, be a really great place to dip your toes in because someone has built you a really good structure and logistical support to help make it happen.
Perfect. Excellent. Great advice. Okay, let's open this up to everyone. And I think we've touched on this a little bit, so maybe it's a bit of a repeated question, but let's see if there's any new ideas. How can we assess which markets to enter first? And I know we touched on it a little bit, but maybe JP, I'll start with you first. Is there anything you want to add as far as how that can be done?
Well, I'd like to say that I agreed with everything Leah just mentioned. You just to touch on your last question before answering this one, it's certainly not something you want to cut corners on. If it's a perishable item, you don't want it stuck at the customs of that country because it's going to be perished by the time you finalize something you've forgotten about or didn't know about. So no cut corners, be prepared. So how can you assess which markets to enter first? Well, it's tied into that question, like you said, Paul. I think they both go hand in hand. So I'm sorry I'm repeating myself again, but to invite experts to your table that you trust will go a long way. You may find multiple markets that fit your offer. I would start with the least risky one, but that's me. I don't like too much risk, but sometimes risk is good, sometimes risk isn't. So I would start with the least risky one, perhaps a closer one in distance. For logistic purposes, it might be a little easier if it's, let's say, on the continent. If it's in the US, if it's in Mexico, I don't know. I'm not saying not to go to other continents. I'm just saying closer to start might be a good idea. Build from it, and then from there expand to other markets after, and based on your newly acquired experience and expertise.
Very good. Ali, your thoughts on this? And I know you've already explained a little bit of how you're planning to go into Mexico, but are there other markets that everybody's looking at as well too? If so, how are you assessing that? Or can you elaborate as to how you sort of did this for the Mexico plans?
Yeah, so I think Leah made a really good point. Like, there's so many tools that are created for entrepreneurs to kind of get their feet wet before they make a big commitment to a distribution partner or a big retailer somewhere else. So to Leah's point, Shopify, Etsy, Amazon, I think those are all great places that are low risk to try things out without necessarily having to commit to a 3PL, which is a warehouse and a person that fulfills everything. I just want to touch on Amazon a little bit more and nerd out a little bit on that platform.
Mm-hmm.
It was a platform that I was really resistant to using because our company has a focus on sustainability. You know, they're making strides, they're getting better, but it is just such an easy platform to get started. They have their own fulfillment where you can send your inventory with Fulfilled by Amazon FBA, very low risk. It's actually sometimes, you know, selling one unit for us, for example, so selling one unit through Amazon, we're profitable. Whereas selling one unit through our website and having to pay the fees for shipping and everything is just not profitable for us, right? We need to be selling like 3 units at a time in order for that order specifically to be profitable at that level. With Amazon, super easy. Zero risk really when sending your inventory there and testing things out. So I think Amazon can be a really good strategy if you're looking to expand into a new market, testing it out before committing to having like your own warehouse there to fulfill orders from your 3PL, or, you know, possibly even like expanding your retail strategy. I think another way that's interesting as well is, you know, for us, we're able to get data now to see like where our customers are buying from, right? And so if we know that we have customers buying in California, buying in New York City, that's why it was easier for us to say yes to the detox market. The detox market, just for context, is like one of the larger beauty retailers that only allows clean beauty products in their stores. They were a dream of ours to launch with them, so we're very excited. And they have stores in California, New York, and in Toronto. For us, it was an easy yes because the target demographic makes sense between our audiences. So we know that when they promote us to their audience, it's gonna, you know, people are gonna love our products. But also geographically, we saw that we had a lot of sales coming already from New York and LA. So it made sense to geographically be in their stores there because we know that we can, you know, push some of our current buyers to go and pick up our product there. I think one of the risks that isn't talked about a lot is it can be, I mean, it's not easy to get a retail expansion and to get your product into retail stores, but it's difficult. But one of the more difficult things is how do you actually move that product once it's in those stores? You know, and that, to Leah's point, takes a lot of marketing money. And so imagine, just hypothetically, I got a relationship with, you know, Target wants to buy our product and they put in a PO of hundreds of thousands of units, but then I don't have a marketing plan to support that. What's going to happen? Target's going to delist me because my units aren't moving in the store. And then I'm going to get stuck with all this excess inventory that I probably took out a loan from my bank, you know, to fulfill. So it's just such a, it's such a risk. So again, I can't emphasize enough the testing things and starting slow and scaling without getting too excited of, you know, there's going to be many opportunities, but is it the right opportunity? And do you have the money to back up those opportunities?
Perfect. Excellent. Leah, your thoughts on this topic? And I know you've already shared some.
Yeah, I support LA on this one entirely. Start slow, start small, pick one, just one. Do not overstretch yourself. Do not frustrate your bank and your accountant or any lawyers or trade agreements you might have. Pick one place and start there and kind of grow into it. It is testing both the literal and figurative shipping waters that you might have there. I'm kind of always split on this question. And one side I wear my marketer's hat and I say, the place to go first is the place where you have saturation of your ideal customers. And you know about your ideal customers because you already have them domestically, ideally. And that's why you're looking to expand out to, if that is why you are looking to expand out to new place. So take what you know about these people who love and value you, and then go see where other clusters of them might be. And there's 1,000,007 different tools online to help you find folks through various social media monitoring platforms and web analytics of where other people might be gathering to test that. And then kind of looking at it of, can you deliver your customer experience to the degree that you hold your standards to in this new market. So again, language, time zones, efficiency, capability, and capacity. That's kind of my marketer's hat that I wear. When I put on that certified international trade practitioner, though, a lot more documents come into play when I'm looking at first places. And so there's kind of an extra layer of testing of trade agreements that exist between the nations, because wow, not something I thought about before I really got into this line of work, but they can make a really big difference in terms of duties, fees, levies, and taxation and structures, and kind of the flow of commerce between countries are made easier for folks when your nations have trade agreements. So that's something to be kind of looking at regulatory requirements for importing as well as for exporting out of Canada, but for importing into that market in particular that you're evaluating. Can you afford to do it? Do you have the time to do it? Do you have the necessary certifications, ability to get those certifications if you have a complex product you're looking to move into there? And then I'd also be looking at legal systems and kind of what is that complexity? What jurisdiction will things be falling under? Is it favorable or even kind of embracing at all of external non-citizen, non-domestic participants in that structure? Would you be looking to choose a third country for any kind of legal disputes? You never like to think about legal disputes early on, but wow, expensive and heart-wrenching and things to consider early on when you're kind of doing some of those risk planning. So currency perks, if you aren't locking your currency rates in, also kind of looking at those to see, are you going to make money or are you potentially going to lose money? So again, that all kind of comes into the export plan, but those are the added complexities that international trade lens brings. Go where your people are and go where it's going to make you happy to work and to work hard in this space. A place that you are interested in participating is always a good place to start for me.
This is great. I've got a couple of points here myself, but all three of you have knocked them all off. So this is perfect. We're actually answering all the different options that we're providing, I guess, the business when it's going global. So excellent. Hats off to everyone here. Al, let's go back to you. What was, or should I say, was there anything that surprised you that maybe you didn't consider when you're expanding to a new market? Anything that really sort of, made you take a step back and go, oh, didn't see that coming?
Taxes, especially for e-commerce. So right now, anybody in any state in the US can buy something from us. So that means we need to file taxes with every single state in the US, which is something to really, really, really consider before you open up your website to the US. There's ways to get around that. Ping me in LinkedIn and I'm happy to chat about it. I'm very, very fortunate that my husband is an accountant. And he's, as a really small business, he's been able to help me from the beginning. So I just can't stress that enough. Just really don't forget that there are different tax implications in every country. I know I dropped a comment in here about the trademarking. Trademarking also is a thing. You're going to have to trade. You don't have to, but if you want to protect your brand, you should consider trademarking, and it's going to be a different process per country, different fees per country, and oftentimes different lawyers that you need to hire per country. It sounds like I'm an ambassador for Amazon, but I promise you I'm not. But Amazon actually has once you're on their platform, they have a way to connect you with like lawyers that they refer you to, and they have really accessible prices for these lawyers, and they help you get trademarked. So one of the things to also know for Amazon, to be on Amazon, you have to have a trademark pending at least. So it is something super, no, that's not true. You can build your store on Amazon, but you're not going to be able to have like a full branded experience, like a storefront on Amazon, unless you have a registered trademark pending. So something super important to consider, especially if you care about your brand identity and you want to protect that, you're going to want to have that trademark. Somebody in the comments asked me, should I trademark all of my products? There is a different price. There are different prices for trademarking. For example, for us, like I had to consider, we sell candles. Should I trademark candles and every single other item that I'm thinking of launching in the future, or should I just stick to candles? And all of that is going to change the price of the application for the trademark. So that was something that was pretty surprising for me, and a cost that I wasn't expecting. It was probably around maybe 10K to trademark US and Canada, and we didn't even cover like all of our products. And for a small brand, that can be a lot of money. Well, that is a lot of money.
It is. No, absolutely. I do want to wrap up, and I think we've covered quite a bit of this with one more question around resources, tools, and and maybe organizations that you can recommend, just to have the people joining us today to learn a little bit more as to their readiness and strategy for exporting. But before doing that, I see that we do have questions. And Nadia, I might need some help on this as well too. Thanks for jumping in. So
Yes,
I just want to
we have a couple questions. One here from Betty around, is it best to test a market, for example, a US city before going all in the US? So maybe the thoughts around like piloting, or how do you go about thinking about certain specific markets within an overall market, if anyone has an answer to that.
I'm happy to share if that's okay. I have like a very specific point on paid media. And again, I'm sure everybody here has other opinions when it comes to like, other like with retailers. I'm going to focus specifically on like selling, if you're selling from your website. So one easy way to test things is actually to cast a wide net with your paid media. This is kind of contrary to what paid media buyers have been saying in the past. And when I say paid media, I mean like ads on Facebook, ads on TikTok, ads on Instagram. Well, not Facebook anymore, Meta. Let's talk about ads on Meta. So the thought, there's there's going to be people who don't agree with me on this, but one of the things that we're finding right now is that our ads, we just cast a wide net in the US and Canada. Instead of just geo-targeting specific cities that we thought were going to work, we just cast a wide net in both US and Canada. And the algorithm is starting to learn which cities and which places are going to be best for targeting. And then eventually with time, you're going to be able to see data and see if there's like data coming out of specific cities where people are buying more from. So I would say that's an interesting way to go about it. Oftentimes your dollars are going to just go further with that strategy as opposed to targeting like a specific city. The more targeted you want to get with your ads, the more money is going to be spent per CPM, which is per 1,000 people reached. So again, this is something that is very it's very controversial in the paid media world, but it's something that we're finding is working really well for us, to just have a wide net with your paid media and then seeing where those sales are coming in from and letting the algorithm kind of do what it does best, which is find those buyers. And this is strictly for online.
Perfect. Great. I want to come back to you. There's another question here directed your way, and it's not from me. It's from Michelle. How did you decide on your 3PL?
Is that a question for me?
Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. No, it's okay. So real quick story. I had another startup before this startup and I closed it within 3 months. So this is a story about my 3PL. And I will not name the names. It's like Lord Voldemort. You just like don't name them anymore. But I was living in the States at the time. I launched my startup. I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. You kind of never really know what you're doing, but you have to learn and improve. But anyway, launched a startup and I immediately was like, we're going to make it big so quickly. I'm going to start working with a startup right away, with a 3PL right away. So we send all of our inventory to this massive warehouse, massive 3PL that has like a footprint all over the States. And we're tiny. We don't have the volume that all of their other brands that they do 3PL for have. So we're a small fish. They don't really care about us. The fees that we were dealing with were huge because we weren't meeting those minimums that we needed to hit in order for the prices that they gave us to make sense. So it was a nightmare. I needed to pull out my inventory after 2 months. They sent me everything, and I had items that I was selling in glass. They sent me everything in like a massive box just piled on top of each other. And it was just the most horrible experience I ever had. So I really warn people, ship out of your house for as much as you can until you have a volume that you don't want to handle. And unless you have, and you raise a ton of money and you can just spend money like that on your 3PL if things aren't moving, then go ahead. But my recommendation would be ship out of your home until you feel like you have enough volume to move through a 3PL where you have volume data month to month that you're able to negotiate better rates with these 3PLs. That's what I would recommend. I think that 3PL that we use in the States would not even be a good fit for us now. I got very lucky and I'm happy. If anybody is looking for a 3PL, send me a DM. I'm happy to recommend mine. I found these young entrepreneurs based out of Toronto who are amazing. They have their own 3PL, they're entrepreneurs themselves, and they're willing to work with earlier stage founders. So they work with me. And yeah, it's been really incredible. They're working so hard to get us the best rates. So it's just really worked out. I got really lucky, but I was really scarred from that first experience and opposed to working with the 3PL until I found the one in Canada. And this is not like a big 3PL company. It's a smaller mom and pop shop, but it's worked really well for us.
It's the right fit.
It's the right fit, exactly. And to the point that I think it was Jean-Philippe saying earlier, like find partners who are willing to invest in you and grow with you. And it's hard to find, but you will find them. You need to find people who believe in you.
Yeah. I know there's some more questions on here, and we'll see if we can try to maybe answer them offline for you, because we've only got 3 minutes left. And I do want to wrap up, and I want to give an opportunity for our panelists to, I guess, maybe just provide your final thoughts based on the topic we've had today. And that could be maybe even, what resources, tools, or even an organization that you would recommend where entrepreneurs could begin their learning about exporting readiness and strategy. So I'll start with Leah first. Maybe if you can give us your thoughts that you want to leave for the group.
Yeah, international trade is awesome. I like it. It's this weird puzzle in my brain, and it scratches a particular itch for me, and so I find it really fun to play in. But it's like I'm trying to organize a large puzzle, and I've got like my edge pieces all sorted out, and I'm kind of grouping up various colors, and then someone just comes in, shakes everything up on me, and runs away again. And that's like the context shift that happens in the market somewhere that you couldn't have been prepared for, but here we are. And if you like solving these kind of intricate puzzles, this might be a really great path for you. But it takes a lot of work, and it takes consistent energy and resources in time, in energy, in sleep, and in enthusiasm as you go. So take your time. I think the biggest lesson I wish I had known earlier on would be patience is an absolute skill that is required in this field, but it can be really rewarding once you kind of get in there and the terms start making sense and your confidence builds up as you go. I would not have been able to get into this with this much love for the field and kind of joy in the work had it not been for the Forum for International Trade Training. So I'm here to plug them with my full heart and support for them. The courses and the resources and the support in that community is exceptional. And there has been a code put in the chat for discounts on any of the courses, but there's also the Fit Skills Light program that's free resources available to you. And it is a community of international trade folks, people who are working in it with designations, people who are just dipping their toe in, and people who are just looking for resources and kind of a community to connect with and ask weird questions to, because there's a lot of weird questions that come up as you go along with it. And as we're seeing in the chat, very specific, very individual ones, and all of them are really important and really valuable to be answered. So I'd recommend checking out the Forum for International Trade Training, lovely organization that can help you kind of get started, understand, and then find out a lot of these really specific intricacies of international trade on a large scale. But have fun with it. Go explore, go experiment, chase your dreams. They're absolutely worth chasing. And good luck.
Excellent thoughts. JP, how about yourself?
How can I add anything after Leah? Such great advice as Leah, by the way. Well, I would also recommend not to rush too much. Maybe subscribe to, if it's not a rush, maybe subscribe to a specialized class for yourself. For sure, again, involve your financial institution as early as possible. Involve experts as consultants if you can't hire them yet. Another idea, maybe you can find a mentor, someone that has that experience in that field. You'd be surprised how many people love to help out there for free, someone you can bounce your ideas with over a coffee. You'll be surprised through your own network, perhaps, I don't know, LinkedIn, people that know someone that you'd be impressed. It doesn't cost to ask. It could be a teacher, it could be a friend, it could be, like I said, a mentor. You admire a company. I've seen this, by the way. So, I know someone that did it. So you admire that company. Why? Well, then you end up talking with the CEO or whoever in that company, and you explain who you are, why you're reaching out, and that you would love a 15-20 minutes over coffee. And then from there, you evaluate if it's a good fit in personalities, and you'd be surprised. You could become friends. But yeah, explore the mentorship is what I'd like to say, or add.
All right. Thank you, JP. And of course, I want our entrepreneur, Ali, I want you to give us your final thoughts as far as, again, resources, tools, organizations that you thought really helped you or guided you in starting to export.
Honestly, I will say tools. I don't know if I thought out mentors from the beginning, but now, into my journey, I've realized I've had a lot of mentors along the way, unofficial mentors, just, entrepreneurs that were a little bit further ahead of me in their journey who were so happy to give me advice. You would be surprised how eager we are to have, chats and give advice. That's honestly the best resource I can give. I can't stress Amazon enough. I'm telling you, this was something that I really didn't want to do. I don't know. I just hated it for some reason. And now I'm like, it's been such an incredible tool. Low risk for us to learn, to get our feet wet, to see what we want to do. Yeah, that's really it. And to leave you with a motivational little nugget, believe in yourself. We have one life. And if you have an inkling inside of you that you want to be an entrepreneur, you're gonna, always think, what if you don't pursue it? So believe in yourself.
I love that last thought. Perfect. Excellent. I want to thank our panelists. The information from all you have been incredible. I mean, I've learned and picked some nuggets as well too, so that's great. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for everyone that tuned in today. Want to turn it over back to Nadia for us to wrap up.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today, to all of our speakers, our panelists, our moderator, Paul, for facilitating the discussion. We packed a lot into 1 hour, and I know it's hard to get to everything, but this will be available afterwards to go back and watch. So thank you so much. We've just launched a feedback poll. We'd really love to hear your feedback on the session. We build these sessions for you, so any feedback you have to share is really valuable to us. Thank you so much again to our co-presenting partners, UPS, Export Development Canada, the Trade Commissioner Service, and Desjardins, as well as our entire community of ecosystem partners. This is our last webinar of the year for Startup Global, but we do have a number of Startup Women events and other programs happening, so please subscribe to our newsletter to stay tuned for future events. Thank you so much again for all of your time today, and we look forward to seeing you at a future event. Take care, everyone.